and a tip behind him. That's going to be a spin from Goodell. Maybe no, he catches it. How in the world did he catch that?
I have no idea, and I'm not sure Ryan Goodell did either, but he comes back onto the track. A little bit of a checkup there around him. That was incredible.
And taking advantage of that, Clayton Ham. Let's take another look at this replay. The 14, all sorts of sideways, and it starts to look like the car wants to go again. That's why he went on the apron. I thought maybe he just was slow and was trying to get out of the way, but he had to save it twice. We are indeed Brunschweiler to the inside of the pair of them. That might not necessarily be the best line unless he can get it woed up in time. He's the bravest on the brakes, and he is going to get it. Wow, the 4 moves up to 5th in a 2-1 move. Side by side between Burns and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has the inside, but not a nose ahead at first under braking. It starts to go back ahead. They're going to go wheel to wheel through here, giving each other space. Now it's a drag race, DJ, on who gets to the line first.
And it's going to be a shorter line there for David Burns, but it's not giving any room by Johan Vanderbilt. They're going to dive down into the corner. Little bit of bumping and banging, but who's it going to be? I think it's Burns by 22 thousandths of a second.
Meanwhile, up towards the front for TCRs, this has now swapped. Waring has swapped with Hardman. That took place last time by down the front stretch. Now looking to swap back. Look at this. Ascend to the inside. Hardman runs along the curb in the hairpin and just about completes the pass and does. Battle for second now up as Wager tries to send his way in for Britannia Ice Sports.
Wow, this is a three-way battle for that first position. All these guys are fighting for the lead. This is
three wide.
Really nice 3 wide going into Cunningham around to Collier. I can't tell who's going to make it out of this in front of this whole pack, but it looks like it's going to still be Hardman. Andrew Hardman doing a beautiful job to hold on to the lead there.
He's been slowly working his way up through the field. I wouldn't have expected it there. Brown maybe thinking about a 2-for-1.
Wow, great heads up by Johnson, who sees him coming and gives him space, and great braking by Travis Brown. I didn't think there was any way that he managed to get side by side.
Nor did I, but he runs wide there, and that's going to open up the door back for Jeffrey Shulam.
Wheel to wheel, fighting for the 9th position, and it looks like Shulam might have it. Travis Brown cutting back underneath. He's going to fight back on Jeffrey, who's had his hands full for just about the last 5 laps in its entirety, and unfortunately, once again, he is snookered around the outside of Sayat. Murphy holds a small gap over Sebastian, which means big mistakes today could have massive consequences. That's not to say drivers like Dempsey and Parks are out of the hunt themselves. With the punishing nature of Brands Hatch and the knock-on effect of the heat setting each subsequent grid, being picture perfect is a must. Let's see who comes away a champion as we get ready to watch Round 8 of the RTA Virtual Motorsport Formula V Championship. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Ossian Puhaka. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Brands Hatch has history so deep that by now it's seen just about anything and everything. Let's head to our track guide to find out more. Welcome to Brands Hatch. When popular British racing circuits get listed, this track just to the southeast of London often finds itself near the top. The extensive history of the venue has meant that many famous names in racing have ran laps here. but the stats make it sound deceptively simple, with the Grand Prix and Indy course having 9 and 6 turns respectively. Laps might be short, but they're also fast, and the corners are often a challenge to get right. As you'd expect, that means passing is quite difficult, with most drivers leaning towards sending one up the inside at Druids. You might occasionally see overtakes into the first corner, Paddock Hill Bend, but the blind apex and gigantic drop in elevation make that an errand for only the brave. Many of the corner names pay tribute to famous British drivers from the past decades, such as Hill, Surtees, Sterling, and Clark. In fact, the fame extends beyond the drivers, but to the cars as well, with this place seeing everything from Formula 1 to Formula 4, touring cars, GT cars, motorcycles, and even rallycross. It's a gorgeously scenic venue where lush trees envelop the back half of the course, while the front half is mostly encapsulated inside a natural amphitheater. This makes it extremely popular with race fans who can see a majority of the circuit from many seating positions. With a great location near a major metropolitan hub, a spectator-friendly layout, and an experience that challenges drivers, you can see why this place remains abuzz with racing to this day. Well, Ozzy, here at Brands Hatch, this is going to be somewhat familiar, although they're slightly different from Formula Fords. This is going to be pretty close to what has been taking place here for quite some time.
Indeed. Hello, Joe. Hello to the audience as well. As you can see, we are using the full Grand Prix layout. Joe just told you about it in his track guide. It's going to be very fast with these cars. Of course, the Formula Ford Festival used the Indy layout, so you turned right on Surtees corner and right onto the main straight. But we're going to do the full layout here, and these Formula Vs are going to be in for a ride. I wonder how many engines overcook on the back end of the track where there's not going to be too many braking zones. So it's not only going to be about who is the fastest around the track, but also who is the bravest. This is one of those old school tracks, and you know me, Joe, I love an old school track.
Same here, and there you can see some of the mistakes that can cost you here in qualifying. But before we focus on that, let's take a look at the standings, because as I mentioned, it is between Murphy and Scholten right now. Andrew and Sebastian only 10 points apart from one another. Emma Dempsey about 28 back, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to overtake for the overall lead. And then Rob Parks is very much a dark horse way back in 45th. Adam Bacali pretty much out of the hunt with 161 points to make up from 5th position. As for today's race details, Ozzy, what are we in for?
So we are in for some heat racing, and isn't that fun? First race is 15 minutes long. The grid is set by qualifying, and then you basically follow the format all the way through to race 2 and 3. So race 2, the grid is set by the final results of race number 1. It's only going to be 10 minutes long. And then for the main event of the evening, race number 3, 20 minutes long, grid set by the final results of race 2. You get a drive-through penalty at 12 incidents, and you get a disqualification at 20 incidents if you're an especially naughty boy or girl. We don't discriminate.
And yeah, these cars don't exactly do well making contact with one another in the first place. So that's mostly going to be down to off tracks or spins. Hopefully we don't have anybody who rack up too many over the course of each race. Now, in qualifying, it looks like Brian McManus, who was quickest in the warm-up, currently holds the provisional pole. We're waiting for about half the drivers to set a time. And these are not very high-powered machines, as we know, and so you can see it's taken a bit to get some laps in. Most of the fastest drivers have only put about 2 or 3 onto the board, and we've got about half a second between McManus. Oh, and make that McCann. I was going to say it was Walsh there in second place, but Peter McCann in the number 8 just bumped himself up to 3/10 behind McManus.
Indeed, and to talk a bit more about the car, the Formula V has been a racing series since the 1950s, 1960s pretty much. It's based off the Volkswagen Beetle, of course, hence the name Formula V, short for Volkswagen. And it doesn't have too much power, as didn't have a Beetle. It's a very cheap, very fun open-wheel racing series that has been a thing for a long time. It's not quite as big of a thing anymore, but for example, the 1982 Formula 1 World Champion Keke Rosberg used to drive one of these right after karting. So it has some heritage as well. It's not only a club machine. As you can see, some drafting going on here in qualifying. Gonna look to the inside and then gonna decide against it.
Yeah, it's pretty much going to be single file, I got to think, here through Hawthorne, although I'm sure we'll see some brave souls try it too wide in the race. But this is qualifying, so they're looking for a fast lap. And McCarthy here, who has yet to set a time, keeps being held up somewhat by McClory in the 73, so I'm not sure if he's going to have a good lap this time around. At least he needs to set one, though. His first 4 looked like they were not counted. Yeah, you talk about the Formula V being raced by quite a few drivers as a part of the stepping ladder. I don't know if this phrase translates to Finnish culture, but over here we would call it baby's first open wheeler, sort of, essentially.
Oh yeah, it would absolutely translate. So it's one of those well, brand names. I'm gonna mention brand names because we're not on national TV. So it's gonna be the Fisher Price My First Open Wheeler in it.
Yeah, exactly. This is for young guns or those who are just dipping their toes into racing to try and give a go at a very inexpensive car. And looks like McCarthy did get on the board, but he's going to wreck out there coming out of Paddock Hill Bend. And McClory also managed to put another one down. In fact, his quickest, so that puts him into 9th. This is Emma Dempsey. Now, Emma, remember, is 3rd in the points. She really needs to get a better one down. Well, she needs to get one down, period. It looks like the number 2 does not have one up on the board yet. And there it is, a 46.4, only puts her in 12th. Oof, well, that is certainly not going to help that much. That's out of 14 cars that are currently out there. So only Schulten and Stack are behind her as Kelly now goes to the pole.
Wow. So that's our first sub 144 of the day. Emma Dempsey, mind you, getting her first lap time on the board only now, so 2.5 seconds off the lead, but she has time to improve. I think there's still like 5.5 minutes left in the qualifying, so that's about 3 laps left to go for all of these drivers, so I wouldn't rule her out just yet. And looking at the Club UK night, this is going to be her home track, so knowing Branch Hatch is going to be paramount. And knowing this track in general is paramount. Knowing any track is very important, but this is the kind of track where you kind of need the local knowledge, the local experience, because a lot of these corners on the back end, it's not a long track, but a lot of these corners are blind, and you have to know sort of what is the optimal route to take through each corner. You have to kind of like be very brave, because some corners you can take faster than you think, other corners not so much. And especially when you come to the back end of the track, you come to corners like Westfield Bend and the old Dingledale, where there used to be a chicane. There isn't a chicane anymore. The Sheen's Corner, that doesn't have a curb on the outside. So it's very, very terrifying to take faster. You have to kind of cut the inside, hope that you don't take too much of the curb, and get a good launch only to 10 braking the Sterlings. So that's just one of the points where you're going to need that experience and that track knowledge to know that, okay, there is no curb, but I have to compensate by turning in earlier and turning in just at the right line and cutting the curb on the inside. It's as in rallying, they would say, it would be a slight cut.
Yeah, exactly. And I got to tell you, Sheen always really scared me, to be honest. No matter what car I'm in, trying to run through there. Tony Stack is the last one to finally put a time down, so all 14 drivers have got something representative. In the meantime, you saw at the top of your screen, Peter McCann has now gone quickest, but it's one of the tightest gaps we've seen between pole and second, as Kelly is less than a tenth of a second away from Peter McCann. 4 minutes left to go. Just a couple laps that they can get in from here. As we mentioned, it's about 143, 144 for the fast drivers. So they've only got maybe about 3 to go, I think, before they are done with this qualifying session. And McCann right now does not have a slipstream. In fact, he's leading a bunch of drivers with a slipstream. Dowling, Walsh, and McManus. There you can see them coming to the line. McManus sits in 3rd. So will this be an improvement? No.
Look at that view of cars, though. Like, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 cars all slipstreaming off each other. And mind you, this is an open qualifying to all of the viewers who are new to the qualifying formats of iRacing. This is an open qualifying, and if I'm not calculating this wrong, I think these drivers will still have 2 more fast laps, might even have 3 if they timed it right. And the difference between an open qualifying and a closed qualifying is that in open qualifying all of the cars are on the track at the same time, whereas in closed qualifying you are each in your own virtual server sort of thing, so you are alone on the track. But with open qualifying, you are with other drivers. And the key difference is that in open qualifying, if you make it across the line before the timer hits 0, you can finish your lap. Whereas in closed qualifying, if the timer runs out in middle of your fast lap, even if you're in the last corner, too bad. You're not going to be counted for a good lap. So it's going to be a lot of waiting game as well in here to see who can get the optimal draft for that last lap, as we see a couple of drivers really struggling with the track limits here at Branch Hatch. It is, as we said, Joe, it is an old school track, and a lot of drivers are going to be trying out that grip on the grass, and I can tell you, it's usually not as good as on the tarmac, usually.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they can't go too far off as well because it'll discount the lap here in qualifying. They got to keep it within what is considered the track boundaries. There's a few places where you can certainly stretch that here in iRacing at Brands Hatch, but others you have to make sure that you don't get an inch over or else it'll be deleted. Once again, we cross the line. Ooh, when really McManus goes faster, but does not improve position. Looks like none of the other three behind him, interestingly, none of them improved. So they're all going to have to go around once again. And I think that looks like McManus is tired of giving the tow. He lets them all go.
Yeah, but it's going to be really tight coming across the line, because I was looking at the clock when they came across the line and it was like 144, 145. So it's going to be really close on whether all of them can even make it to that last lap, or if this is indeed their final lap. So we're going to be watching that with some interest. Look at the time differences. Like the top 3 is pretty much within 2/10, very close. And then you have a 3/10 gap. And then you again have this close bunch. So if that top 3 can turn that qualifying pace into race pace, they can maybe run away with it early on and form their own sort of view for the lead and try and run away from the other drivers at early on in the race. That's race strategy, but that's how I would be, at least. If I was Peter McCann, I would be like going to Kelly, going to McManus, going like, hey, you know, guys, let's not fight on the first 5 laps or so.
Yeah, and that could vary, of course, depending on the race, because 20-minute feature going to be very different from a 10-minute second race of the afternoon, where you got to get on it, and they're not going to have many laps. That's the end of the qualifying for somebody. I think maybe that was Jordan Kelly who just wrecked out there. Andrew Murphy just came across, starting another lap. That one didn't improve. Looks like John McDonald's managed to come across. He did go quicker, but doesn't go higher up in the order. He'll get one more lap to try and go faster. Oh, and it looks like they are not going to be able to complete their hot laps as the qualifying is over immediately. And that's going to set our grid. Yeah, unexpected for me as well. Peter McCann on the pole position, followed by Jordan Kelly in second. It's Brian McManus in P3, Adam Dowling in fourth, and Andrew Murphy P5. After that, it is Brian McCarthy in sixth. In the first half, Ozzy is rounded off by Evan Walsh in seventh.
Yes, and it's Neil Doherty in 8th place, Rob Parks 9th, and John McDonald rounding out your top 10 of the grid with a 145.2. And then we still have a couple of more drivers, Tony Stack, Ben McClory, Sebastian Scholden, and Emma Dempsey. And look at Sebastian and Emma. They're going to be starting all the way from the back despite their good championship position. So that's going to be very interesting to see how they can make their way up the field today. Key things, Joe, today, don't make mistakes in heat number 1 or 2, or you're going to have a hill to climb.
Exactly. As the green flag comes out for the first race of the day, a much better start for McManus. He goes by both of them up to the lead before they even get to Paddock Hill Bend. Now it's going to be a battle for second between McCann and Kelly. And McCann is a little bit better off the corner, but Kelly starts to come back as they climb back up into Druid's. Top 3 finally get single file. Somebody gets shuffled out as they almost go 3 wide back through Druid's. So far, so good. Back down the hill.
Dempsey's had a poor start. You can see her being like 5 seconds back from everybody else, and that's Parks. That's Parks out, and that's a couple of more cars out as well on the Surtees corner, named after the 1964 Formula 1 World Champion John Surtees and the two-wheel champion as well. But that was a really difficult situation. That's going to send McDonald, McCarty, Parks, McClory, and Doherty out, and Scholden, I believe, has retired from the race as well. So that's going to be really, really difficult for those guys as we have a fight for the lead.
Yeah, multiple cars and actually multiple incidents, it seems, that started that one. Dowling, I think, the first one in the number 5. But let's stay here as the top 3 are all nose to tail. But will they fight, or are they going to try and work together? Looks like a little bit of a fight from Kelly there in second place. Defense to the inside into Sterling as McManus is going to hold him off. And they've got a pretty big gap back to Andrew Murphy, our current championship leader, who sits in 4th.
You say that 2.5 seconds, it is a good gap on the opening lap, but if they don't have a truce, if they start fighting, as you can see, McCann taking very wide line through the last corner and only barely able to hold it together. And yeah, you can see Kelly rising alongside McManus now, so they are going to at least swap positions. And if they run many corners too wide, then it's going to hinder both their performance, and that 2.5 second gap is going to disappear in a hurry.
Now, they do have a spare car waiting for them, so you can see a couple drivers have come down pit lane to try and take that and get back out there for this first race. But McManus fighting back and forth still with Kelly. We need to go back to that battle for the lead. Kelly in the red car trying to get the inside, coming up to Surtees, but decides to get back in the line. McManus turns in early, maybe too early, and he goes out wide. Kelly's got a great run up the hill over Pilgrim's Drop.
Yep, and that curb on the inside is very high, and you need to avoid it turning in too early. This is what's going to happen. Somebody's got to get on overtaking chance on the clear base straight.
Coming up into Hawthorne. It looks like potentially, oh wow, coming back at him. McManus back through, taking the inside away from Kelly. Didn't think he'd be able to get that spot right back. McCann's still in there. They've lost to about 1.8 seconds ahead of Walsh, still trying to catch up. He's past Murphy for that 4th spot. Side by side, coming up into Sheen, and thankfully somebody backs out. That's Jordan Kelly going back in a second.
Yep, and look at behind them. That's no need to go to it, but that's Walsh and Murphy, and they're just following each other. They're watching, they're fighting in the lead. We want to get into this too, and we still have 11.5 minutes left as Kelly and McManus once again trying to swap positions. And it's going to be McManus holding on to the lead on the inside, but still holding on is Kelly. Wow, this is a good battle.
And Brian is not willing to give up that track position. No wonder why. Look at how hard it's proving to pass as a little look, almost 3 wide into Paddock Hill Bend. Yeah, and Kelly tries to cut back underneath to get the inside up into Druids. This time he's got it.
Yep, got it. Nice move to the inside from Kelly. Let's see if he can pull it off. Yes, he can. Now, can he get the overlap on the exit? No, there's going to be a chance to serve this corner from McManus and gonna hold back to the lead. But another overlap and another over-under, and it's Kelly going a little bit nicely to the inside and taking the racing line as well. Now, don't turn in too early. Take it nice and wide here. Get the exit onto the uphill and onto the straightaway. So we are once again witnessing an excellent battle with these Formula Vs. I wonder if they're going to go 3 wide very soon.
They might just, the way they've been battling. By the way, that gap behind them, now 1.2 seconds, so they're continuing to close in, and they don't seem to care if they're going to be caught by that second group. 3 wide, coming into Westfield. Oh, well, I was going to say, McCann better not try that. Still, they go 2 wide. Kelly and McManus, the way that they are fighting this hard, I don't think we're going to see all 3 of them get to the checkered flag.
Yeah, this is reminding me of the movie Rush, when all you see is battles and all you see is Brands Hatch, because this is Kelly, McManus, McCann just giving it tooth and nail in the final race of the season. And look at Walsh and Murphy. They have caught up to the leading duo, and it's stacked not too far away either. And this is a wonderful, wonderful onboard view from Walsh, because you can see the leaders going almost 3 wide there, and Walsh is looking like, well, where do I go? Is there going to be room for 4 wide? Can you make it to the left side? No, just hitting the grass and forced to lift. Running out of space. Wow.
I think he was trying to bump draft. Oh, and 3, 4 of them taken out. Someone's going to get away with it. Looks like McCann, despite some contact, is able to escape, but that gifts Walsh the top spot. Andrew Murphy, one of those involved in that, and he looks damaged. He's going to have to go all the way around if he needs a spare car.
Yep, and that's going to suck for those guys, but I will tell you, that maybe was what you could see coming, but the problem is McManus right now with that car limping on, I don't think he's gonna make it all the way around. He's gonna take a totally big pit lane, and that's gonna mean a last place start, at least a last row start, very bad starting position for heat number 2. So he's gonna fight in that 10-minute heat to get even into a decent position for the future. So that's what this format is wonderful for. You make a mistake in one of these heats and it's gonna carry on and it's gonna carry on and it's gonna stack. You don't get anything for free. You have to be consistent all the way through.
Well, I thought Andrew might be a little bit damaged by that, but it looks like he's still fighting with Kelly and a third car. Looks like, oh, that's Schulten. But Schulten's 2 laps down, a lap down, actually, I should say. So he's not technically part of this fight, but certainly sticking in it. And this is allowing for Brian McCarthy to start to catch them back up. So into Sterling they go. Who is going to duck off to try and get a spare car in hopes of having a little bit more speed after this one? Only 8 minutes left to go. So, yeah, and there you can see Schulten is going to back out of it himself. So he doesn't want to disrupt this battle, knowing he's not fighting for position. None of them duck in. And in all of this, Emma Dempsey has managed to get herself up to 9th, but has still not caught these 4.
No, and Emma was even further up the field. I think at some point she was 7th or 8th. I was looking at some point, so some mistake must have happened to Emma as well at some point. But here you go, going down to the Druid's corner as the battle continues. I mean, it's not by no means over yet. There's been some mishaps, there's been some spin outs, but you know, it's little open wheeler racing. It's not tin top racing, but it's looking like tin top racing right now. They're not giving a quarter to anyone, and not for any reason, as they come to the back straight once again. And that was a very nice line through the Surtees corner, through the Surtees bend. You take a nice wide line, you don't go too far in, and you get a very, very good exit. And I think that exit is what's going to allow him to hold on to the inside line and fight back instead of just getting blasted past on the straight.
Still continuing on side by side, not giving it up, and down into Westfield Bend. Looks like McCarthy's going to have to finally give way with 2 wheels out into the gravel. Andrew Murphy up to 5th because of his tenacity. Can't believe that car is still in good a condition as it is. Down into Sterling. He's up to 5th, so not going to lose too many points. And critically, he's still ahead of Schulten and Dempsey right now. So, yes, he's not going to get as many as he may have wanted, but it'll limit whatever damage they may have done.
Whoa, Joe, I cannot believe that somebody with a Senna helmet is driving with tenacity. That's something I've never seen before.
As we go side by side for the lead, and McCann is still battling with Walsh. They haven't learned their lesson either, as they are swapping back and forth. Let's hope that they don't give up this handy lead. It's 3.5 seconds over Tony Stack, who's up 8 positions, by the way. The 9 car has done a great job. And speaking of aggressive, look at that, pinching him all the way down to the inside as they fly towards Surtees. And McCann trying to see if he can finally get this one away. No, Walsh out accelerates him up the hill.
Yeah, looks like he can't do the overtake there. Maybe it's going to be a better chance to the Hawthorne Bend.
Oh, be glad we don't have any Finns in here, or I'd be making even worse jokes right now as we come through Hawthorne and Walsh back up to the top spot.
They don't have aero.
And coming through the back half of the course now, Dempsey gets another one, maybe? No, Dempsey's in quite a bit of a battle back there. My goodness, it's a 4-way fight for 11th position. And as we check in, oh no, and unfortunately that 4-way fight has come to an end for the number 2 in a big way.
That's a Dempsey roll. That's the first time I've actually seen it live. Now, there's going to be maybe 2 people in the audience who get the reference, but that is a wonderfully executed Dempsey roll. Now, for those who don't know, Jack Dempsey is a heavyweight boxer from the United States from the 1920s, and his finishing move was a Dempsey roll. I waited always long to say that.
Well done, sir. As we come back to our leaders, so that battle in the back is now done and dusted. Jordan Kelly setting the fastest lap of the race. It's mostly just an ego boost, no bonus points for that here. Switching back across, Peter McCann and Evan Walsh still at about 3.5 seconds. They haven't lost ground to Tony Stack behind them. Oh, and another, once again, they are making some very fierce moves.
They're not afraid of the walls here at Branch Hatch or the grass here at Branch Hatch. You can see McCann getting a very good exit, maybe a little too good, because what hindered him was that he had to get out of the toe a little bit too early. The ideal time is maybe a little bit later. You can get the power down. You don't have to steer too hard. But here he is still trying to look to the outside, but Walsh holding on to the inside very well, taking the short line. Still leaving enough space for McCann, but it's going to be very, very difficult to go around these fast right-hand bends. And you can see here, still Walsh holding on to the lead. Is McCann going to look to the inside at Sheens? It's going to be very difficult to pull off, but he is on the inside, and he is alongside.
Oh.
Got in the corner nicely, and they touch.
May have been a little bit of net code. Looks like they're going to be able to get away with it. And down into Sterling. McCann is slowing. Is there damage on McCann?
I think McCann was lifting because he went a little bit wide on the inside and touched Walsh, and he thought that the crash was his fault. As you can see, Kelly going past Stack for P number 3. So I think McCann was just being a gentleman here and wanted it to be a fair fight. And I mean, fair play to him. I love to see that.
Absolutely. Good sportsmanship out here. And unfortunately, though, for them, that good sportsmanship has allowed Kelly and Stack to catch up quite a bit, cutting back underneath. And McCann is under threat once again. Walsh down to the inside. He's going to take that apex away. And you can see glimpses of those 2 red cars behind them, which, by the way, I do appreciate that paint scheme on Tony Stack's car with the Mario Kart theme on it.
That is brilliant. My question is, why isn't there a Luigi car?
Good question. We don't have an Italians, I guess.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, that green livery would be wonderful here, you know, just the Mario and Luigi fighting against each other. So Walsh and McCann still fighting it out for the lead. Now a little bit calmer than before, but McCann getting a good slipstream. And you can see just how much the slipstream has an effect here, because these are very, very underpowered cars and they have no wings. So the less power you have, the more effective the slipstream is going to be. And you can see McCann looking once again, but deciding against doing a move here this time. I think they have calmed it down just a notch, just a tiny little bit. After that little bit of an incident last lap, because I think both of them saw the race flash before their eyes.
Yeah, but look there. It is only 1.1 seconds behind. No, it is 0.4 of a second behind. Jordan Kelly has now run them back down. It is looking like a 3-car fight. Could be 4 if Stack is able to get up to the back of them. And the white flag is going to come out for the first heat of the night. And we still have no idea who is going to win this one.
Good. I have no idea either. McCann is looking to the outside into the paddock hill bend. It's going to be a long way around. It's going to be very difficult to hold that car to the inside for Walsh. So McCann decides against it, and here comes Kelly. Let's see if Kelly can throw it down to the inside. No, he's not going to have the room because that's going to be McCann. But what a block by Walsh. I think that wasn't even defensive line. That was a block by Walsh. He's going to slide a little bit wide of the apex, but still able to hold on to some good speed. And I'll tell you what, it's going to all come down to a mayhem once they get to the Pilgrim's Drop, once they get to the straight line, because that is going to be potentially 3 wide into Hawthorne Bend and Joe. I'm not sure about you, but from my excessive racing experience and almost winning something back in the day, I can tell that doesn't have a good chance of ending well.
No, certainly not. And we've already seen some contacts throughout this race. I don't think we're done with them. It's not going to go 3 wide. It looks like McCann's going to stay patient. That'll give Walsh the chance to lead into the corner. Kelly, the long way around, has to go too far. Can't keep the speed up to try and go up to the lead. Still gets second place over McCann. Falls back into line. All of them using every inch of the course. Coming through Westfield Bend. Now through Dingledale and into Sheen. 14. It is Walsh that leads Kelly, that leads McCann. They have dropped stack. It is down to these three to decide our victor here for the first race of the evening. And it looks like coming off of Sterling, it's a good run for Walsh. He's not completely out of the woods yet. Kelly could still draft by if he gets a good run coming out of Clark. What's it gonna be as they fly off the final corner? Kelly's got a great run, a fantastic run. Weaves the outside, unfortunately, off into the grass, starts to lose speed. McCann to the inside. Is Walsh gonna be able to hold him off? And he does! Walsh takes the win.
It was incredible. So Walsh takes the win. Kelly goes all the way to the grass, and he was the one. I was gonna say earlier that he basically gave Walsh the win by challenging McCann on the last lap. But that was such a good final sector of the lap that they all three of them had a chance to win it. And I've never ever seen a 3-wide finish at Branch Hatch. Never. That's Daytona stuff. That's Monza stuff. That's not Branch Hatch stuff. Oh, and that was a bit naughty.
Yeah, I think they're just having a little fun here. Yeah, little fun post-race as the rest of them come across, and looks like we have the results ready for that one, with Evan Walsh taking the win, Peter McCann in second, and Jordan Kelly in P3. Tony Stack was fourth, followed by McCarthy P5. Andrew Murphy only sixth in the end, one down from where he started, but critically ahead of his championship rivals. Parks was seventh, with McDonald's in eighth. Then it's Niall Doherty P9, Dowling, McManus, McClory, Dempsey, and Schulten rounding out the field. So we're going to be heading off into the second heat in a moment. And again, each of the races are determined by the finishing order of the previous one. The grids are. So those who had wrecks in that race are going to be facing an uphill climb, not just up through Pilgrim's Drop, but throughout the race metaphorically. And they're going across, I believe, that is Emma Dempsey, the last one to see the checkered flag on the lead lap. So that sets our grid here for the second one. And based on what we saw, Ozzy, what's the big takeaway that you have from that first race?
Survive and you will finish well.
I think that's fair enough. I think that probably works, and you can see they've all gridded up. So the engines now start to rev as the lights come up for the second heat. 10 minutes for this one. Off the line, Walsh is better than McCann this time, and Jordan Kelly gets a pretty decent start. They come down into Paddock Hill Bend, behind them 3 wide with McCarthy getting tipped around by Murphy. Murphy immediately running into trouble, and it looks like Tony Stack involved in that one as well. Everybody else manages to get through, but our championship leader immediately sent to the very back.
No, and that is a car that's going very, very skiddy. I'm not sure whose car that was, the white car in the foreground, but that car wasn't feeling all right. They're going to have to make a pit stop early on. And look at the gap that has already formed. Right after some incident in the first corner, it's going to be Kelly and Walsh and McCann. And I think we're just going to see a round 2 of the battle. I mean, they had a little bit of break. They finished the first race. It was like, okay, the first round is over. Let's go second round time, and it's going to be free for all once again. I don't think they have had time to calm down after the first race. Nope, here comes McCann to the outside on the first lap into Hawthorne's bend, because sure, why wouldn't you do that? And he's gonna take it to a right. He's gonna have the slipstream from Kelly as well, and McCann goes through, so he's into second place right now. And I think he wants the lead because he has that amazing pace that he showcased and demonstrated in qualifying. But he hasn't been able to put it to use in race so far because he's spent a long time battling, as we see somebody being a little bit confused about the direction on which to Branch Hatch is run. I'll give you a hint, it's clockwise.
That's McClory who gets it turned around. Looks like everybody involved in that opening incident is able to carry on. Andrew Murphy keeps going, but he's now in only 13th. And Dempsey is up in 9th. Schulten is in 10th. So they're going to make up some of what they lost in the first one, but now's their chance to try and capitalize as we watch the leaders come through Paddock Hill Bend once again. Kelly leads, McCann second, Walsh in third, about 3 seconds down to McManus behind them, but we know he's got pace as well.
Yep, he does have, and if these leaders are going to keep the battle going, this is And this is a consistent team with low-powered cars because it's about choosing your battles. It's about picking your battles. Which one do you want to participate in, and choose your hill to die on. Usually you want to like get away from the rest of the pack early on and then decide it among each other in a small group to minimize the chances of anyone catching up and minimize your losses essentially. So even if you spin, you still have some caution and you can still make it to like 4th or 5th place. As you can see, Doling here trying to go alongside Parks, not quite able to pull it off, however, has to tuck back in, and Parks is brave enough to take the racing line once again. So we are continuing single file for a change until a mistake from Parks, allowing Doling through, and the pass is going to be done to Westfield Bend.
I don't think there's been a single lap that hasn't seen some too wide throughout, and Parks gets that 6th place, or Dowling gets that 5th place, rather, from Parks. As they come down into Sterling and wide and spinning. There goes Dowling off the track. He's going to stay out of the way as the others slice through. So Doherty, McDonald, Dempsey all inherit a spot.
And the leaders are contemplating 3 wide once again. After that slight break into the mid pack, a little bit of a spin-off, and then we have an absolute melee for the lead once again. Looking to the inside was McCann. Actually, Walsh now inherited the 2nd place. McManus, meanwhile, is the fastest car round last lap. Kelly still holding on to that lead and holding on to it very well. Now, you can defend the position by just going to the inside, essentially doing the typical defending maneuver show, which is just holding on to the inside for your dear life. But the good thing about Brands Hatch is that, as we've seen today, it allows for a lot of over-under. So if you take the racing line, you take the longer line around the corner, that's going to mean your exit speed is going to be better as you're not turning in as tightly. And with these cars, that's going to be paramount to making an overtake. So it's not going to be easy to hold onto the lead, but Kelly's made a good job of it so far. He was able to win the 1st race, and he's looking very, very good here on the 2nd one as well.
Yeah, these cars definitely need momentum, and you need that throttle down as much as possible, as early as possible. Great exit from Walsh, decides not to challenge it too wide through Westfield. So stick behind Kelly. It's down to 2.5 seconds to McManus. He's not challenged by anybody right now, so the 15 basically has to rely on his own pace to get up to this group. And Dowling has come into pit lane. I'm not sure what caused that, but the 5 is now taking a spare car, it looks like. Andrew Murphy has been in and out as well in the 17, so he had to come in and get a spare car himself. Meanwhile, already past halfway into this race, we're only going to see about 4 laps here.
Yeah, it's a very, very short one, but it's a very fun one for these guys. McManus looks like they are going to be holding on to the 4th position as of now. Peter McCann now taking the fastest lap back of this draft pack, despite the fact that they're battling all the time. And look at Walsh here, now sending it down to the inside. Maybe a little bit of fake, forcing Kelly to brake late. Kelly's going to take on the lead once again, but that's a warning shot given once again that, hey, we're not going to wait until the last lap. And that's the key thing here, because I think sometimes in these battles, if you get into a calm period, you're going to be thinking, okay, I just have to focus on the last lap. Until 10, I'm going to be relatively safe. Walsh did a very important thing there of letting Kelly know that they are not going to be safe until the last lap. However, a little bit of a poor first sector has allowed Walsh to fall into the jaws of Peter McCann, and McCann is maybe going to have to get an overtake done. And this is where you have to make a hard decision if you're Peter McCann, in that, are you going to allow to see if Walsh has the pace to catch up to Kelly, or are you going to force an overtake right away? Well, he chose the first option of waiting and seeing, and that looks like it was the right option, as we have some battles on mid-pack as well.
Yeah, potentially championship implications as Dempsey goes by another one. That's up to 6th place for the 2 car. Let's hope that she can avoid winding up end over like last time, side by side into Sheen. McDonald's comes out ahead of Doherty. So that was for 7th position as well. And again, I tried to do math on the channel. I said 4 laps. It's going to be more like 6 laps around here as they come across the start-finish line with the lead pack. And they've got just under 3 minutes to go now.
Well, knowing American education, the advanced mathematics was probably an optional DLC, so I don't blame you too hard for failing at that.
Yeah, but let's not even talk about what my requirements were in college for math. As we come out of Druids, another challenge from McCann on Walsh, but Walsh comes out ahead of the pair of them. Getting close to 2 minutes to go. Going to be white flag next time by. Looks like Niall and John have found themselves continuing their side-by-side battle, and Doherty got 7th place back on him. Here we go in that battle for P2 as McCann tries to attack on Walsh, doesn't have the speed up the hill, gets back in a line. This seems to be the area where Jordan Kelly keeps pulling away, and I wonder if that might be critical on the last lap.
Yeah, I mean, Kelly's pretty much optimized that first sector, and it's not easy to get right, because you have a lot of places where you can easily make a mistake, but you can also gain a lot of time if you're brave through Paddock Hill Bend. You're going to use all of the exit, then get a nice tight line through the Druid's corner, get it to the right-hand side early, use all of the exit on Graham Hill Bend, because the exit is banked, so you can turn into the corner a lot faster than you initially think. And then the 30th corner is all about the exit to the back straight, to the usually only overtaking option on this track with most cars, apart from Formula V's, where you can basically overtake anywhere. You can overtake in a phone booth if you want to. But yeah, that's very good that Kelly has been able to optimize that first sector. It's going to give him a lot more leeway, and it's also going to give a sense of urgency to these guys who are battling it out for the 2nd place to actually try and catch up to Kelly and not allow him to run away on that first sector. Let's see if we see a dive bomb. No, we don't.
Not quite. Can't get in there deep enough to challenge Kelly, but it feels like deja vu all over again. It feels like deja vu all over again as we have the same 3 cars fighting for the lead in the 2nd heat. McCann and Walsh in 2nd, and Jordan Kelly leading. Last time, though, Kelly was the one on the attack, had to settle for 3rd. This is his chance to try and make good on that.
Yeah, and my initial thought when you said that was not only Initial D, but also Formula V's on a nice track, so I can't concentrate. You go on.
So as Jordan Kelly has the advantage and keeps finding a little bit of a gap, it suddenly disappears through Hawthorne Bend. McCann has got to try and find a way around. Last time we saw some aggressive moves to the line to try and blunt the momentum of the car behind. Is Kelly going to employ similar tactics? They go through Sheen. Might be a case of Walsh sitting in the best position back there in 3rd, getting the double toe with McCann distracting Kelly and opening the door. That's going to be Andrew Murphy letting them by, does not want to interrupt them. He's going to finish a lap down in the end and down in 13th place out of the final corner. Kelly is ahead. Can he keep the speed up all the way off into the grass? That's going to blunt his momentum. Here comes McCann. McCann tries to fight back, but I don't think there's enough speed in it. Down to the line, it is going to be Kelly winning, McCann 2nd, and Walsh in 3rd.
Wow, I wonder if McCann was lacking on straight line speed somehow. I wonder if he had a bit of damage as we see a mayhem into turn number 1, post-race antics for these guys. Let's hope if one of them graduates into real-life racing driving that they don't, you know, keep that habit going from iRacing, because I'm still waiting on the day that somebody does the butt horse jump in real life. Goes for it and realizes, oh, this is not iRacing about halfway through. So yeah, anyway, after the repair bill and a very bad back. But yeah, very tight race once again with these guys. Kelly from McCann from Walsh. And Kelly did a good job of holding on to the lead, but I think he was a little bit stronger on the straight line, because McCann, it looked like McCann was able to get a good exit from the last corner. I don't know if he had a misshift or something, but he just wasn't able to use that momentum to get the overtake done.
Well, after that last race, there's your results. Kelly taking the win, McCann and Walsh on the podium, with McManus a little too far back to catch them in the end, which surprises me. He was earlier. Parks, Dempsey, Doherty, McDonald, Stack. Dempsey doing a great job making back some points on Murphy with that one. And on to the second slide. There you see McCarthy, McClory, Murphy, and Dowling rounded out. We have a chance to talk to McCann, find out what happened. So why don't we bring him in during the warm-up for the feature? and see if we can figure it out. Peter, were you lacking straight line speed there at the finish? Because it was a tight run, but it seemed like despite getting into the grass, Jordan Kelly still outpaced you to the line.
Yeah, when I seen him drop the 2 wheels, guys, I was sure it was on, but I don't know. Yeah, I maybe I had a little bit of damage, but I had no X's or anything during that race, so I don't know what happened.
Very strange stuff. Twice in a row, we've seen the top 3 battle it out all the way to the finish. Is it going to be another case of that here in the feature?
I imagine so. Yeah, it's really, really close there at the top, and now Brian's back into it for the last one, so it's going to be crazy.
Well, I don't want to keep you too long. So what's your plan coming into this race? Is there anything you can do to give yourself a better shot at it?
I don't think I have the outright pace compared to Brian and Jordan, so it's just a matter of trying to keep with those guys and see where I can finish.
Well, we'll look out for you, Peter. Congratulations on a second place in that last heat, and best of luck.
Thanks, guys.
It's Peter McCann, second in the second heat, and it looks like we've got our winner, Jordan Kelly, ready to talk to Ozzy.
Yes, it is Jordan Kelly winning 2 out of the 2 heats, and that last one was an almighty performance, despite having a little bit of a scare in the last corner. So did you have time for a wardrobe change before the last hit?
I think just about, but lucky just to back off that wee bit into the grass, but it's lucky to hold on for the one that race, to be fair.
I take you're Scottish.
Irish.
Okay, Irish, yes,
Yeah.
because so Brands Hatch, well, it's not in Ireland, it's in England, but I assume it's a familiar track for you. How do you enjoy it?
Pretty alright track. There's a lot of corners and stuff, which I like, less straights and stuff, but with the V's and stuff, it makes it nice and interesting. Slipstream down the straight, side by side around the corners and stuff. Me and Brian had a good battle in there in the first race until hell broke loose. And I was kind of laughing at that point until everything happened, but hopefully more of it now in the next race. With the 4 of us, or maybe even more. I think it was 5 at the first race, so hopefully we'll get more of that.
Well, as Joe said, we'll try not to keep you too long, but Jordan, tell me, what is the reason you are going to win this feature hit?
Don't do stupid moves, I suppose. Just take your time, wait to the last lap maybe, and try and make a move there, hopefully.
All right, thanks for talking to us, and good luck on the final one.
Mm-hmm.
We've got one more to talk to, and that's Evan Walsh, rather, in the number 1 car. Evan, you finished first in the first heat, and you finished third in the second heat. Are you going to take second in the final heat, or are you going to get back up on top of things?
I'll take whatever I can take now to beat Peter. I think there's only 2 points between us now going into this last race, so yeah, I just need to try and stay ahead of him, and I should have third place, hopefully.
Yeah, it's we've been trying to keep our eye on the championship and who is finishing where. But what do you think is setting you 3 apart from the rest of the field?
I think we're just getting lucky at the start and kind of getting a small bit of a gap on everyone else, and we're kind of just trying to work together and not slow each other up too much. But it's kind of, we're literally just waiting behind each other until the last lap, because the draft is so strong that you can't, even if you get out in front, you just can't get away from anyone behind you, like, so yeah.
Well, you've only got about 30 seconds left, so we'll let you get back to it.
I better jump.
So best of luck today.
Thank you.
All right, that was Evan Walsh, who finished third in that last race, and 15 seconds left. Interesting stuff to hear from the drivers, especially about those fights there for the lead, Ozzy.
Indeed, it is very interesting to see what's going to go on between these guys, and let's hope it stays that way for the feature race, because it's going to be 20 minutes, so there's 10 minutes more to potentially screw up. I think is the Murphy's Law way of looking at it.
Well, let's. I'm sure Murphy is going to be hoping that's his law here in the final one as we take a look at the grid for this last race. 20 minutes, the longest of today's races and the last one of the season. who will be able to come out on top of our 14 drivers. Will it be the same 3 that divide for the win in the first 2? And there's your last 4 of these 14 competitors. Just about have everybody gridded up. So last one of the season here in the RTA Virtual RTA Virtual Motorsports Formula V Championship. Looks like we're just waiting on McManus, Doherty, and Stack here, taking their time a little bit. Last time they all gridded up quite quickly. And McManus starting from 4th on the grid will certainly want to get a good launch on this one. Murphy, unfortunately, a bit under the gun because of the bad finish on that last race. In fact, bad start, you could say, considering it happened on the very first lap that he wrecked out. Looks like we're all gridded up as the lights are up and the green flag is out. And Jordan Kelly is off pretty well. Top 3 are already down to the inside line, as instead it's going to be a battle for 4th place with Parks trying to fend off McDonald, Dempsey, as well as a few others. And Dempsey goes off course, unfortunately.
Yep, got a little bit of a touch, and the wheel contact is very, very hazardous with open wheel cars. Thankfully, the speed wasn't that high, so Dempsey is able to get going as we have a spinner there, and I think that's McDonald who's had a spin in the second corner. That's going to be Druids, and he's going to need some Druids if he's going to win this one.
And bad news for Andrew Murphy. Andrew Murphy jumped the starts. I went back and checked to see why he's all the way down in 11th, and he has unfortunately gotten himself a black flag that he is going to have to serve. So I'm not sure how many positions he's going to manage to get here, but it is not in his hands after this.
No, it's not, and I wonder why he slowed down so much. I mean, I would have just gunned it. Full start, you get the full start anyway. You would have just gunned it and then take to the pit lane, but he's chosen to be a gentleman and chosen to let everybody else go through because he doesn't have a chance to win anymore, and that's fair enough. That's also some interesting lines there, and I think that might have been... Oh, and there's an incident. Oh no, Dempsey just fell right back to the racing line. That's going to be a McClory hitting her, and that's going to be Ten McDonald getting through to them, and that was a little bit of a mistake by Emma Dempsey there. You have to hold on to the brakes after you spin, otherwise if you fall back to the racing line, that is exactly what's going to happen, and there is some more mayhem at the Sterling's corners. I think we're a little bit too eager to get the race going.
That's McCarthy and Doherty there that had that second issue. But yeah, so now Emma Dempsey has to take a tow, take a spare car. And where is Murphy? Murphy's now down pit lane serving his penalty. That changes things up completely. Schulten now has a good shot from 5th place. As we watch the leaders, it is Kelly and McCann. And guess who's in 3rd? None other than Evan Walsh, but a little farther behind than what we're used to seeing.
Indeed.
Sorry, go ahead.
Indeed. Yeah, indeed, and just looking at the leaders, meanwhile, Kelly, McCann and Walsh, now Walsh has dropped off the pack, as you might have just mentioned, half a second, actually 1 second behind McCann, and McCann is half a second behind Kelly, so it's calm before the storm, I think, but it's going to be very interesting to see if McCann can live with Kelly's pace, because he mentioned in that interview that he doesn't quite have the answer to what Kelly is doing here around the Brands Hatch track, so he might have to just hold on to the draft for dear life here and hope that Walsh doesn't catch him up, because it's going to be very important that if Walsh doesn't catch him up, that he holds on to the draft, because if he drops from here, then he's going to be essentially a sitting duck to Walsh and probably Parks as well.
What a bizarre start to this feature race. Andrew Murphy is now ahead of Dempsey, who is still waiting for the car to find its way to pit lane after taking that tow. So what I thought would be surely the complete turnaround of the championship scenario for Andrew Murphy has gone back in his favor. Schulten's only 2 positions up from him, so unlikely we'll see Sebastian overtake him in points. And what we're left with is basically the battle for the lead here as McCann chases behind Kelly. We watched from his nose cam, and we had a car come back out. Looks like both Dempsey and Parks have returned. No, Parks is in 4th, excuse me.
Yeah, so Parks is in 4th now, 1 full second behind Walsh, who is slowly but surely catching up to the leading duo. though the gaps are getting smaller in general, with McCann able to live with Kelly's pace for now. But you can see once again how Kelly is pulling out just 1 or 2 tenths of a second each and every time they come through the first sector. So that seems to be his strong point for now. Cutting a little bit too much here on the 30th bend. You could see him lift 2 wheels onto the inside curb, and that means he's not going to be quite able to get the traction going as soon as he wants. And it's very important because 30th, as we mentioned before, is an uphill corner, so you turn tight uphill to the left. And with an underpowered car, the momentum is even more important because guess what, Joe? Car accelerates uphill slower than downhill.
Thank you for the science lesson. That helped my ignorant American brain as we come out of Sheen. And Jordan Kelly still leads on McCann. Walsh has caught them. Rob Parks about 2.2 seconds back. And we're looking at about 12 laps on this one. So remember, they have an incident limit in each race. Only 12 gets them a drive-through. We've already seen these guys all dip their wheels off a few times. In fact, Peter McCann has not had a clean lap yet in this race. And this is going to be the 3rd time across. Let's see if McCann actually gets it this time. No. That's at least 3 incidents for Peter McCann. If we're looking at 12 laps, 1 incident per lap, I mean, I can do that math, Ozzy.
Yes, you can, and it's going to spell disaster for Peter McCann, and potentially for Kelly as well, who's been taking a lot of off-track as well, at least from visual inspection and our data that we can get from our director's room as well. So cutting once again, and you can see where they are taking the off-tracks because that's the Graham Mill bend, and he's cutting a little bit too far to the inside was McCann, I think, from a visual inspection. And let's see if they can get this one going all nice. Yes, they can. And I think the only problem that Kelly has right now with his driving is the 30th bend. He's a little bit inconsistent through there, but he's still faster than the 2 drivers behind him. So if he can get that cleaned up, he's going to be in an almighty pace, and he might be able to even pull off the impossible, which is to drop these guys from his draft, assuming that he can keep his off-tracks in check. So, McCann and Walsh have caught up to the leader, and we have a familiar situation once again.
Yep, it's back to these 3 fighting for the win. 13 minutes to go, so plenty of time to sort it out. So do they fight as hard as they have before? It doesn't look like they have. We saw a bit of this in the last race too, with you say that. Yeah, he starts to duck his nose in, but we did see this where Kelly was kind of out of the fight. It was just kind of McCann and Walsh that were trying to race each other. And I'm starting to see that familiar scene unfold as they come across. Still, McCann has not set a clean lap out there. So he's got to start being careful, as a little bit wide on the exit gives slightly better speed for Walsh. Doesn't try and take his nose up the inside through Druid's bends. They're about now 4.2 seconds ahead of Rob Park. So they are stretching away is the good news. They are quicker than the 111.
Yep, they are, but the problem for McCann and Walsh is that they can't decide on which one of them is faster. I can see Walsh being able to hold on to the back of McCann very easily, and he was able to catch back up to the leaders after being 1.5 seconds behind. And you can see Walsh there taking all of the exit at 30s and 10 some. The problem is that the curb is quite high there, so he was getting quite loose and did a good job of holding the power down and keeping that car barely on the straight and narrow. But yeah, McCann and Walsh can't decide on who is faster, so they end up fighting, and that's going to allow Kelly to potentially get away if one of these fights goes on for too long. So their modus operandi should really be, okay, we know by now that Kelly is faster. They should know that by now. They should have the info, they should have the data, and as hard as it is for a racing driver to admit that somebody else is faster than you, well, guess what? Kelly is faster than you. So it's not a multi-21 what they should do. What they should do is try and force a move out there. Try and take the fight to Kelly instead of taking it to each other and turn it into a free-for-all, because that's into a constant fight, because that's where the pace matters less and the racecraft matters more. Because if you can't get a clean lap in, if you can't get your chosen driving lines, if you have to fight side by side all the time, the pace doesn't really matter because you're locked in this fight. And looks like McCann is now able to catch up to Kelly, and let's see if he puts that advice into action.
Those two teammates probably, hopefully in communication here and can certainly use one another as they come off of Druid's no attack on that one. And we're about halfway through. So we're getting to where they're on the downhill portion of the race, if you will. And at some point along there, we expect them to eventually start fighting. The question is when and how. And this, I would not advise them to try and make it the place, because once again, you called it earlier, Jordan Kelly seems to have Surtees figured out way better than McCann and Walsh. Every single time, he just pulls a gap.
Yeah, and even still, like I mentioned, he has that figured out, and he is still a little bit inconsistent through there. So that just goes to show you how difficult that corner is. Everybody's talking about Paddock Hill Bend and the back straight trees, the Hawthorne Bend, the Westfield Bend, where we are coming to right now. Actually, we're coming to Sheens right now, which is probably the most difficult corner out of the three. As you can see, there is no curve on the left, which I mentioned earlier on. You can see it brilliantly here from the onboard shot of even Walsh. But I think Surtees is honestly sneakily the most difficult corner at Branch Hatch. It's always been very difficult for me because it is so technical, because the curbs are so difficult, and because it's an uphill corner leading to a long straight. So it's it kind of reminds me of Tosa at Imola, only that it's even more difficult due to the curbs.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely seems that way. As I looked around to the outside, McCann now is going to try an attack on Kelly, cuts back underneath. That over-under is going to work very well. Great speed for the number 8 car. To the inside of Druids, will we finally see a new leader in this race? Kelly's going to try and hang tough, nearly touching wheels as they come off the corner. Graham Hill Bend goes to the inside for Kelly. Advantage back to the red car, and the battle carries on.
Let's go red car, let's go red brand. So Kelly is holding on to the inside. Here we come once again, the Surtees Bend. Let's see if he can execute that knowledge very well. He can look into the inside, touching the curb just a little bit. Not too bad, but McCann was able to hold on to the outside, which means that he should be able to get a better exit, and he should also be able to tow Walsh past Kelly, because Walsh is the one enjoying the slipstream right now. Kelly's not getting any, but Walsh doesn't want to commit to the move. Instead, it's tied here in P number 3. He knows that he'll get a podium most likely either way. So if these leaders want to battle, then let's battle. We still have 8.5 minutes left. And look at Walsh there taking a title line through Westfield Bend and almost looking like he was going for an overtake there, but then deciding against it. So you can see tiny differences in driving lines. They're not much, but you can definitely see them in the approach that these drivers have. Like Kelly's... one more thing, sorry Joe to cut into you there, but Kelly's looking for a title line always to the inside of the corner. Like he's turning in just a little bit early at some places, whereas in the last corner he's turning in late because he wants to maximize the exit.
I was going to say, I think Kelly also slowed up a little bit coming on the back half of the course, and Walsh nearly got in the back of him. So McCann now on the inside. The roles are reversed. Kelly, though, doesn't try for the over-under. Instead, they're going to go 3 wide as Kelly went a little bit off as they come into Druids. And still, with 2 wheels in the gravel, Kelly is able to make the pass stick and now has the inside down at a Graham Hill Bend. That was some incredible driving from the 99.
Especially when you consider that these cars are rear engine, they have rear wheel drive, and they have no differential. Well, they have no differential lock, which is what I'm limited slip differential, meaning that once you are with 1 wheel on the gravel, that's going to spin so fast, and once you regain the grip, it's going to be very difficult to control it. He was already sideways just a little bit, but he was able to save it and take back the lead. However, that might be for naught.
Yeah, easily passed there, McCann and Walsh. Did he slow, though, or did he just take Surtees wrong? Because it's not typical for Kelly to be slow up that Pilgrim's drop.
No, I think he saw that the drivers behind were too close. I think he knew that, okay, if they're within like 0.2 of a second heading out of Surtees, then he can just... he should just let them by instead of fighting them into Hawthorne Bend, Westfield Bend. Maybe he's trying to conserve his tires just a little bit, or I think it's more risk assessment than anything. You know, not wanting to go side by side, because we still got 6 minutes left. He knows he has the pace, and he knows that he can make the move later. And I think he might also want to see if these leaders battle and he can get a free overtake instead of having to fight for it.
So they go side by side again. Yeah, this is where he needs to really be using that slipstream to gather them up, but he's a little too far back. Instead, it's going to be up to Walsh and McCann. McCann gets to the corner first. Walsh cuts back underneath, has to go around the outside as McCann covers him off, coming up into Druids, still side by side, and this time it's going to be McCann who comes out the leader.
He does, and he did a very good job of that move too. So McCann now holding on to the lead through Graham Hill Bend, and you can see once again Kelly taking a wider line through there because he knows there's a lot of runoff that you can absolutely use. There's a lot more grip than you'd imagine because it's kind of this gridded AstroTurf sort of thing. It's kind of like little tiles, little stone tiles that you find there, and it's very easy to use that runoff. Let's see if Walsh can make a move onto Hawthorne Bend. However, he's looking in the draft, and I don't think he's going to make a move here. He's going to lift chest a little bit, so is Kelly. So it's a little bit of calm right now. They're allowing McCann to lead for now until an opportunity presents itself.
Down into Westfields. We're getting close to the end of this one now. Less than 5 minutes to go, so most likely 3 laps left for these drivers, and they've actually continued to pull away in spite of the battling that we've been witnessing. It's now up to 10.6 seconds over Parks. They're free to fight if they want, I think, because they are outpacing him easily. Defense to the inside from McCann, coming up into Clark. Walsh, in the meantime, tries to cut back underneath with a little bit of a better line, and he's got more speed. Now Jordan Kelly has a great run. Will we see that red 99 overtake both of them? Might not be able to do it to the inside. Doors open, but lifts.
Yeah, these 3 are just in a different division, so if anyone like Parks or Sheldon or McDonald would try and fight against them, it would be like Arsenal this season trying to fight against the Premiership team. It's just not going to work out because they're in a different division. So these 3 just showing to be the class of the field, and let's see who is the class of this race. Right now, it looks to be McCann, who, despite his words about lacking pace, is playing the game very smartly, and that's what he sounded like too. He sounded like, okay, he has a plan. Oh, and what happened to Kelly? I think that may have been... Sorry, to Walsh. I think he may have missed a shift coming out of Graham Hill Bend, which means that he was slowing down a lot and also slowed down Kelly, so they dropped 1 second back of McCann. Now, this is not crucial yet, but it is if Kelly has to fight against Walsh to keep his second place. Now, looks like they're going to draft together back up to the leader, so not a problem for Kelly, and you can see just he was 1 second back and Kelly is now 3/10 back. Just after 2 straights. You can see how powerful the draft is and how powerful Jordan Kelly is as a driver once he's in clear air.
I went back and confirmed, and it was indeed a missed shift that caused that checkup. Just a box full of neutrals. So as Kelly now gets too close to McCann and finds himself having to get out of Sterling, that allows Walsh through. And we're going to get 2 to go as they come to the line.
Yep, and that was again amazing reflex action from Kelly to keep that out of an accident, because I think he was surprised by another car slowing down, almost running to their back, and having to make a little bit of a corrective movement. 2.5 minutes left. I wonder if that's going to get into his head, because he's been very close to an accident a couple of times now in this race. I wonder if he needs to just tone it down a little bit and how that's going to affect his approach here. Still, I'm very, very impressed by all these 3 drivers in this race, but especially Jordan Kelly and his car control, because his car control looks to be very, very good. I would almost say it's finished good.
By the way, we're not missing anything farther down the field. We've already mentioned Parks multiple times in 4th. Schulten's in 5th. McDonald's is 6th, and Murphy still sits in 7th. From there on down, you get many dozens of seconds away from one another. So everybody's just kind of running their own race. This is where the action is, up at the top, between the 8th, the 1, and the 99. This time it's going to be teammates who are side by side into Hawthorne, and McCann comes out ahead of Walsh. Kelly to the back of them. They know, they should know at this stage that it's going to be white flag next time by, so they got to start setting up for where they want to place their car for the final lap.
Yeah, I think the heat is so strong on this one in this final heat that I'm gonna need an ice cream after this, because it's gonna be just a McFlurry of action in the last lap between McCann, Walsh and Kelly. We are on board with Kelly, who is just looking to see what happens between these two leaders. So McCann and Walsh, Walsh is looking for a chance, but McCann is holding on to the inside, as you can see. McCann being extremely defensive, and why wouldn't he be? It's on the last lap, and here comes Kelly to the outside.
We haven't talked about it in a while, as there's the white flag, but what are the incident counts for each of the drivers at? Because it seems like Kelly hasn't really been flirting with the edges of the track as much. And car contacts, let's not forget, those count for 4X. If he's close, then he can't afford to fight too hard with them, as well as having to leave some leeway to the edges of the circuit.
Yeah, and that's the usual strategy. If somebody's close to the off-track limit, if they're streaming, for example, just give them a little bit of 4X. Why not? No, don't do that. Don't do that. Back in the olden days, Walsh, McCann, and Kelly fighting clean, I'm sure.
Coming up Pilgrim's Drop, Walsh leads, McCann follows. This is where Kelly's usually strong. Kelly backing off, though. Is Kelly setting something up here?
I wonder if he is, or I wonder if he's... Yeah, look at McCann there, looking to the inside, not quite able to pull it off. I wonder if he's smelling disaster between these two, and that's why he's backing off. Maybe setting up for a run onto the final straight. I don't know. This is very curious, because that was his best chance. That is legit the best chance, and we are on the last lap, let's not forget. So if McCann or Kelly want to do something, they have to do it now.
Ooh, and McCann is weaving back and forth a little bit, trying to look on either side, but that bad entry and exit coming out of Sterling has hurt him. And this might mean that Kelly is now hurt by this as well, as he's a little too far back. I think Walsh might have this one under wraps as long as he's clean off the corner. He's a bit far ahead. McCann now trying to come back at him with the slipstream. I think he's going to run out of straightaway, and indeed, Walsh is going to be your winner with McCann in second, and Kelly winds up in third. Parks is all on his lonesome in P4, and from there, as I mentioned, everybody is all falling apart from one another. But I do believe that Murphy, as he sits in 7th place, should wrap up the championship here with this position. There is the number 17, as Andrew Murphy comes across the line and unofficially, we believe, is your champion.
Indeed, and congratulations to him. Not the strongest of showings here at Brands Hatch, but a very good recovery drive nonetheless. And, well, it's a championship. It's always something worth celebrating, and looks like he's going to be celebrating it in style. But yeah, that last lap, a bit anticlimactic almost, Joe, after we saw all the battles. But even Walsh doing a good job, McCann doing a good job finishing second, and Kelly, I think he might have outbrained himself.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think everybody tried to get a little too tricky, as this is McCarthy who's going to come home in 8th. And that's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Brands Hatch. We just saw the season finale of the RTA Virtual Motorsports Formula V Championship. And the winner for this feature race was Evan Walsh. It was Peter McCann who wound up in second with Jordan Kelly in third. After that, Rob Parks was a distance fourth. It was Sebastian Scholten in fifth, followed by John McDonald. And by our estimations, Andrew Murphy was our champion in seventh. And you've got Brian McCarthy finishing eighth with Neil Doherty ninth. And one lap down, Emma Dempsey was not able to take the championship there from 10th position. McClure, Dowling, McManus, and Stack unfortunately having a bad feature race for today. Let's talk to our winner, Evan Walsh, after he managed to take both the first heat win and the feature win today. 2 wins on the day. Evan, this has got to be a pretty good way to wrap up the season.
Yeah, geez, I'm delighted with that now. That was brilliant. No, I'm absolutely sweating. It was so stressful now trying to stay ahead of Peter and try not to crash, because we had a couple of little moments there now during that race. But yeah, managed to beat him in the end at least.
Yeah, coming into that last lap, you were second place, and you managed to get by on McCann. After that, did you feel like you made a mistake? Did you feel like he was going to easily be able to slipstream right on by? Yeah,
I kind of figured he only stayed behind me just to get the slipstream, but it's kind of hard if you don't get a good exit on the second last corner. It's very hard to stay in that draft enough to be able to pass over the line. So he actually got a bad exit. So I got very lucky there. Very lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, next season, I'm not sure if the Vs are going to be coming back, but I do know that we'll be joining the RTA for a British touring car style championship. Will you be joining us for that one?
Yeah, I absolutely love the touring cars. They're really enjoyable to drive. So I'm actually looking forward to that a lot more than I was originally looking forward to the Vs now. So it should be good now. The racing is going to be brilliant in it.
We are looking forward to it as well, especially the hard racing that those things offer up. Congratulations on both wins this evening, including a feature. Anybody you want to thank?
All the RTA lads. I'm sure they're probably watching the stream there anyway. They do a savage job running the championship, and it's really fun, to be fair. And if there's anyone watching, I'd absolutely recommend to come along and race with us. Like it's such a nice place to race and have a bit of fun.
It was Evan Walsh, your winner in the first race and the feature race here this evening. As up next, Ozzy has caught up with Peter McCann, who took second in the feature.
Yeah, it's not easy to catch up with Peter McCann, but I just managed to do it, Peter. It didn't go as bad as you feared. You certainly didn't have the pace disadvantage, at least not enough to knock you out of the podium. So it was a fierce fight up until the last lap when it all went a little bit more calm. Tell us about how your race went.
It went very well, and what you guys might actually not realise is that I was actually racing Evan there for third in the championship, so that unbelievable pass around Druids on the last lap netted him third and knocked me to fourth. So it was an awesome bit of racing.
Yeah, it's very bold to assume that we are actually realizing anything here in the commentary booth, but so we're just talking over moving pictures, letting it go with the flow. Anyway, Peter, that was a great fight still. Despite losing out the third place in the championship, you still managed to show us a great performance and be a part of 3 great heats. So how was your Brands Hatch day summed up?
Yeah, really, really good. I think I was second in all 3 races, so no wins, but to race and be like tenths of seconds away from everybody there on the podium every race is just incredible.
It sure must be, and I know your legs might be still shaking, your arms might be shaking, you might be feeling a little woozy after such an incredible race. I'm sure I would be if I was still active after having a battle like that. So what's going to be the plan for next season? What is Peter McCann going to do after this one? More Formula V, or are you going to move potentially to touring cars?
Yeah, so I'm just coming straight back with RTA again into the TCR Championship. These guys know what to do when it comes to making a good season, and look forward to more of the same.
Well, I'm looking forward to Joe trying to imitate some of those classic Murray Walker calls. You know, I'm going for first, he says, and more of that action. Well, anyway, Peter McCann, thank you for the interview and congratulations for the second place in this feature run. If you have anyone you would like to thank to or send greetings to, then feel free to do so.
No, it's just to Rob and Andrew there in RTA. They've created something really special here. It's only a couple of seasons old, and the racing is already incredible. And of course to Jordan, the champion.
Yep, thank you, Peter. And next up, we move to Joe, who I believe has found himself Mr. Drifting himself.
Yep, Jordan Kelly, who almost looked like he was trying to get a little tricky there on the last lap. Jordan, we heard you lift on the way up Pilgrim's Drop. Were you trying to hold back and set yourself up, or what was going on?
To be fair, I didn't really want to get too involved with the two guys in front because it was a matter of if one finished ahead of the other, it would have come down to if Peter finished ahead, it would have come down to who had the most ones and highest position. So I just didn't want to get too involved and mess something up or hit one of them. It wouldn't have been a nice feeling now. But so I just kind of let them fight it out amongst themselves. So still a good race. Just didn't want to get too involved.
That's incredibly gentlemanly of you. We saw a number of incidents like that during this race where, in fact, I think it was McCann and Walsh that came together at one point, and one of them lifted to let the other by. Do you feel like that's one of the big values of this league, that sense of sportsmanship?
Yeah, everybody's kind of... It's not as serious as you would think, but we're all kind of friends. We've raced together a long time, like, so... It's kind of just it's a nice fun league that Rob and Andrew run, and it's if anybody wants to get involved, it'd be good because everybody's nice and friendly. It's not too serious, but at the same time, everybody kind of wants to win in a way too. But that's good as well.
Well, again, it may not have been a fight for third in the championship for you, but clearly you gave us a lot of action. Is there anybody that you want to thank for today's 3 in a row podium finishes?
Just kind of a bit disappointed for Brian. He could have been in a running for the championship there, but he had a few problems with his PC, and I think he got taken out in one of the races there too. But and thanks to Andrew and Rob for running the league, and hopefully the TCRs will be more of the same stuff and nice, close, tight, nobody getting too far ahead in the points and having a nice battle to the last race this season. So we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. That was Jordan Kelly there, who took a third place in the feature race of the day. And it's going to close us out with a big thank you as well to the RTA League for bringing us on for these couple races in the championship. And we also want to thank the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast that we've listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more great work. And thanks to the team today, Ozzy, Zach, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. And also check out our merchandise store. It's gsrc.storenv.com. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. The next race that we're covering, as we mentioned, is going to be in the British touring cars instead. That's going to be on April 5th. So definitely tune in for that one in a week's time, as we'll come back for Donington Park. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. Don't forget, though, the PRL is coming up later this evening here on GSRC. That's going to be the multi-class series, and that should be a lot of fun with some very close racing in both of the doubleheader there tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.